YouTube, going the Goat House is back with my Week 9 NFL score predictions and picks against the spread. Doing this video every Wednesday afternoon. We have straight up picks with the other guys of the Goat House already up for this week. Those go up on Tuesday. We got power rankings, trade deadline videos, all of it. We got you covered here, so like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Follow us on Twitter. Super followers on Twitter get best bets for NFL, college football, a lot more. Just updated my playoff predictions on there, so check it out. But follow us on Twitter either way. A lot of news, rumors, and updates. Any link you're looking for, Twitter, Picks League. That's not too late to join if you're joining the Super Picks League or our sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid IV. I'm rocking the Max Crosby chain from the GLD Shop. Some sick stuff there. Code GOAT. On either of those sites, and yeah, those links are pinned in the comments. So Thursday Night Football is the Eagles and the Texans. Eagles are favored by a whopping 14 points. I do have them just covering. It's a lot of points, though. It's a lot of points. It's in Houston. It's a primetime game. The Eagles are due for a loss, but this would just be a wild one. Not just because it's maybe the best team in football versus maybe the worst team in football right now, but the Texans are really struggling to stop the run, and it's very difficult to win football games when you can't stop the run. And now you got Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, these guys coming to town here, and it's going to be very difficult to stop them. And they're starting to open up the passing game downfield a little bit more as well, and they can win this game big, obviously doing that. So you kind of got multiple things to worry about here, and they're playing really good defense. They're possibly even better now at Robert Quinn in there, so they're going to give Davis Mills some problems. They can slow down that run with Dameon Pierce. They got Brandon Cooks that isn't too happy over there, so I just don't see how the Texans can score a whole lot of points. I think 17 would probably be like the maximum that I can see, but prime time at home, who knows? But the Eagles should be able to run all over the Texans as well, so it could be a similar style game as the Steelers game for the Eagles last week. I don't have them winning by quite as much, but 30-13 is what I have them at. So covering that 14, which is a lot though. But we'll recap all my picks against the spread at the end of the video here, like we did last week. I had 11 right last week, and then the Chargers Falcons, which a game that could go either way. I could see the Falcons winning with their run game. The Chargers really struggling to stop the run. The Falcons can run the ball. I just think the Chargers be a little more too explosive for them, even though the Chargers missing a guy like Mike Williams. I think Keenan Allen can get rolling. Austin Eckler can get rolling. I believe the Chargers can win on the ground or through the air against the Falcons. Falcons a little beat up at the cornerback position. I mean, even the Panthers had a day offensively against them. The Chargers surprisingly haven't been that great offensively, so they got to figure some things out, and they get enough going in this one where maybe the Falcons can't really only focus on the run because they're going to be trying to play keep up, which, again, they'll be in the game. Not saying they get blown out or anything like that, but I got the Chargers just covering that spread, 27-23. The Falcons been a little sneaky this year, so they could pull this off. Again, the key is how they start running the football, because they really can pound it against the Chargers, but they got to stay in this game. They got to keep a lead here, but I worry about them being thin at the cornerback position that showed up the last 2 weeks here. So Chargers off the bye as well, so we'll take the Chargers 27-23. Dolphins, Bears. Going to go Dolphins by 7 here. They're favored by 5, so they're just covering that, but 31-24. The Bears have figured something out offensively, so they've been pretty entertaining, surprisingly, on offense, which is rare for the Bears. So maybe a little difficult for some of these teams to stop. I mean, they even scored on the Cowboys here. Dolphins run a similar defense to the New England Patriots, which the Bears had their way with. But I'm going to trust the Dolphins a little bit more against the Bears, mainly being they're more athletic. They'll be able to track down Justin Fields maybe a little bit more than the Patriots did. They get Bradley Chubb in the mix, which should be a plug and play, even though they just traded for him. And we'll see if Chase Claypool plays for the Bears. That should be pretty fun. But the Bears without Roquan Smith, obviously, now, and Robert Quinn, but recently traded Roquan Smith. But I think the Bears can have some success on offense still like they kind of have been. You see the Dolphins' defense has been beat up. It struggled in the first half against the Lions, but I think the Dolphins just got too much. Their offense has been extremely impressive. The Bears, obviously trading away Roquan Smith's big. Their defense really struggled this past week. And the Dolphins do enough offensively. So I got them winning 31-24, 7-point victory. Panthers and Bengals, I got a close one. The Bengals are favored by 7.5. I don't think they win by that much. I mean, it's certainly possible because we saw the Falcons score it up against the Panthers, so you would think Joe Burrow and his weapons, even though it's without Chase, could possibly score it up. But they've been really struggling against zone defenses. The Panthers are a zone defense. They've been struggling against teams with a good pass rush. I mean, they have Brian Burns that can get after the quarterback at a pretty high level. Guys like Shaq Thompson could blitz, obviously. And, yeah, the Bengals just been, without Chase as well, looking at last week. So you kind of put all that together. It's just hard to fully trust them to score it up. They're going to have to focus on the run game in this one with Mixon. I think they do that. I think we'll see a lot of running clock because the Bengals should run it with Mixon and the Panthers should run it with Foreman. The Bengals are a little beat up at the cornerback position, so the Panthers maybe can kind of continue on of moving the ball a little bit better than they were earlier in the year. But I think we'll get a lot of running clock in this one. And maybe some mistakes on both sides, pressure getting after the quarterback, but the Bengals got to prove they can do something against a non-man coverage team because it seems like all their success this year has been against man coverage team, and now they're without Chase. So Panthers run a little bit more zone. So we'll see what happens here. But, yeah, 23-20, I think this could be a close game here. But I got the Bengals. Even though the matchup might actually say Panthers because, yeah, they run that zone. They should be able to get pressure on Joe Burrow. I've seen the Bengals find a way, and they're a much better team. They make that one extra big play there. So 23-20 Bengals, even though they're favored by 7.5. Packers-Lions. You're going to go Packers 27, Lions 20. Packers favored by 3.5, so this is where they could figure it out. The Lions certainly could win this game. It looks like the Packers defense has been a little underwhelming or compared to what we would expect it to be, and the Lions have scored points this year, so they might be able to, do some damage, and the Packers kind of have been underwhelming on offense as well, but I just think it's a really good matchup for the Packers. It's a good game for them to turn it around. The Lions defense is the worst in football. The Packers got a pretty deadly run game, and they kind of figured that out finally. It took them a little long, way longer than it should, but against the Bills, Aaron Jones ran wild, so that's the issue. The Lions are very, very bad stopping the run. They're very, very bad stopping the pass, and you got Aaron Rodgers and a very strong rush offense coming to town here. They're going to have to worry about so many things that I think the Packers will find success. So then they'll be on the board with 27 points here. Lions kind of been, they were at a stretch of really good offense, and then they kind of went cold, and then last week they kind of heat up again, got hot again offensively, but the Packers defense, even though it's been underwhelming, I still kind of like. They struggle to stop the run, though, and that's why there could be a lot of running clock in this game, maybe a little bit less scoring than expected because the Packers should run the ball. The Lions should run the ball. I just don't trust the Lions enough with their decision-making there, but yeah, I'm feeling the Packers. This is a good matchup for them to bounce back, so I'm going to go with Green Bay 27-20. They're favored by 3.5, have them covering that. Again, we'll recap the against spread picks at the end. Colts and Patriots, this should be a tight one. Should be a squeaker that could go either way. I'm surprised the Patriots are favored by 5.5. The key for the Colts is to run Ellinger, get some design runs going. We'll see if they do that. They didn't really do that last week. They moved the ball better than the score showed last week, though. They fumbled twice in the red zone, and they couldn't score from the 1-yard line. And they had a big drop at the end of the game when they could have went and gotten field goal range. So some mistakes they have to clean up. They could clean those things up. But I think a Belichick defense could cause Sam Ellinger some problems. They probably can create at least one turnover. But I think the Colts can come up with a turnover as well because Mac Jones has been a little sloppy with the ball. But I'm going to trust the Patriots at home. I think home field is key in this one. If it was in Indy, I'd probably pick the Colts. But both teams will kind of lean on their running game. But maybe the Patriots defense makes it one extra play. I think both defenses make extra plays. Can Jonathan Taylor figure it out? It's a big question in this game. But I'm surprised it's 5.5. This game is a kind of a 50-50 game. Should be really tight. Should be a defensive game. So 19-17 Patriots is what I got here. Bills and Jets. The Bills are favored by a whopping 12.5, but I have them covering that. I have somewhat of a low-scoring game here. I mainly have them covering that because I just don't trust the Jets' offense to do much. Their main source of offense was Breece Hall. He's obviously gone, only the second week without him. They have James Robinson as a solid back, but the Bills do a very good job on defense, just all around and making plays. And Wilson, struggling if they have, they're going to have to lean on him to make a big play through the passing game because the Bills, even though the Jets' defense is good, the Bills are going to make those big plays through the air or with Josh Allen, even him on the ground, and they're going to score some points. So the Jets are going to have to – they're going to know that. They're going to have Wilson make some plays, and I don't know if he can make those big plays against the Bills' defense. So I don't have the Jets scoring that many points. Really beat up on the offensive line. Quarterback struggling, and they're missing their star running back there. So Maybe James Robinson figures some things out this week. But, yeah, I didn't have much trust of the Jets scoring more than, they could score 13. I just not much more than that, though. But the Bills, yeah, 24 is kind of low for them. But the Jets play some pretty good defense. So I think it could be a low-scoring game. But I have them winning by 14, which would be covering that 12.5, which is a pretty big spread. But going with the Bills there. Going to trust them a little bit more. If the Jets were healthy, like if the offensive line was there and Breece Hall was there, I think it'd be a whole different game. I mean, not that I would pick the Jets to win necessarily, but I think it'd be they'll have more points scored, obviously. So that's tough because they were starting off really hot this year before those injuries. Vikings and Commanders. I got the Vikings winning 26-20, covering that 3.5. Yeah, Commanders been playing really good football recently. The defense has really stepped up. It looks like they can get Chase Young back. But the teams they've played recently, Colts with Ellinger, the Bears before they adjusted their playbook in there, teams like that, obviously, and who else they have in there? I'm trying to remember the teams they had in there. They had the Titans were in there, which they're really struggling on offense. So, again, the Commanders' defense definitely much improved, definitely playing better. A little bit different of a challenge here against the Vikings, who've had a pretty good offense. But I think the Commanders do an okay job in this game. It's going to be not as good as what they have been doing the last few weeks, but I love the Commanders in the red zone. I think the Vikings kind of work the field like they have been, but in the red zone, the Commanders can kind of clutch up, maybe force the Vikings to some field goals. But I think the Vikings definitely do enough still. Vikings, you can move the ball on against their defense, but they've been clutching up as well, making plays. Maybe the Commanders don't have enough offensively here. Zadarius Smith's been on a tear, so they got to deal with him. But I'm going to go with the Vikings 26-20. Just enough offensively here. Something different the Commanders have to deal with. Kirk Cousins' revenge game here. So, I got them covering at 3.5, winning 26-20. Next game, we got the Raiders and the Jags. We got the Raiders winning by 3, another 26 here, 26-23. This game that can go either way, really. It's tough because both teams been struggling. The Raiders really struggled last week. Didn't score a single point. Then they bounced back in this game. The Jags do stop the run well, but I have a feeling that Jacobs gives them problems. Not crazy problems, but gives them some problems. And I think Derek Carr can have a bounce-back game here. So the Raiders do enough in this one. They scored 26. But the Jags should be able to do some damage on offense. ETN been playing pretty well. Lawrence has got to stay consistent. It's harder to trust the Jags. Overall, who's played better in games this year? Maybe the Jags over the Raiders, but it's harder to trust them because there's games where they outplay their opponent and they still lose. They still cannot close out the game. So in this scenario, I can see the Raiders slightly outplaying the Jaguars. So how are the Jags going to close out a game like that? So that's my thinking with that one. So a bounce-back game for the Raiders. Covering that 1.5, but it's a game that really could go either way. It's close to 50-50. Wouldn't put it right at 50-50, but it's pretty close. Seahawks and Cardinals. Yeah, maybe a little bit bold with this one. Not who I picked to win necessarily, even though they are the underdog. But they just played a few weeks ago, and it was all defense. It was a 19-9 final. The Cardinals didn't even score an offense, so I got a shootout, 30-27. It's just something I'm feeling here. I think both offenses have been playing pretty damn good. The Cardinals figuring things out on offense to get DeAndre Hopkins back. The Cardinals defense has played worse than they were playing earlier in the year, though. So that's interesting. The Seahawks defense actually has probably played better. They have been playing better than where they started, but the Cardinals offense has gotten a lot better. So, and I think the Seahawks offense, since they're very good, and the Cardinals defense just seems like it's not as good as the last time they played the Seahawks. Therefore, the Seahawks should be able to score some points offensively. Kenny Walker really getting going as well. So I got a shootout here, and I'm going to pick the Seahawks. It's a game that can go either way. You think it could make sense that they split on the year. The Cardinals should be a lot better offensively. That was the problem last time. They just couldn't convert on fourth down. They couldn't execute in the red zone. They couldn't get points from the board. You think, they should be a lot better this time around, and therefore they could win the game. I just feel more comfortable picking the Seahawks. The Seahawks I feel like they get better every single week. They're balanced across the board. They're playing better defense. They run the ball extremely well. They pass the ball extremely well. It's not like the Cardinals where they're going to pass and they're more of a pass team. They're more predictable. The Seahawks are a little more difficult to deal with right now. So I feel more confident picking the Seahawks. I'm going to trust them a little bit more. So I like them in the shootout here, 30-27. They can keep rolling. But it's a division rival game that can go either way. This time around, the Cardinals have Hopkins, of course, unlike last time. So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm just, again, a little more comfortable picking the Seahawks. So I'll take them, and they're +2 in that game. This is where I start going with some underdogs. I like the Rams in this game. I got to see if Cooper Kupp plays or not for sure. I guess that plays a huge part. But I also want to know if Winfield plays. He's still not at practice, so I don't think so. That's a big piece there. Remember, Shaq Barrett is out for the year now. That's their main source of pass rush. But remember, Winfield's a good blitzer as well. They're kind of relying on some guys stepping up. Vita Vea getting interior pressure, which he could do, and Devin White blitzing, but he's kind of been taking himself out of plays as well. I like the Rams. I got to see if Kupp plays this game, but I am surprised that they are +3. It's two teams that are getting ripped right now because they're struggling. They are way worse than expected. When I watch the Rams, I still see a pretty good team in a way. They can't block, and Stafford is throwing the ball to the wrong team or fumbling the ball. But other than that, they have explosive plays. They can, even though they haven't been scoring a lot, you kind of worry about them if you're a defense. They can hit you at any time. Like, they can get that explosive play at any time. Their defense is still playing pretty good ball. Where the Bucs, it's like, Brady throws some good balls here and there, but the offensive line's not helping them. The run game has been bad. The receivers have been underwhelming. Defensively, the defense has been underwhelming. It's not the same run-stopping defense as it used to be. They're beat up in the secondary. They can give up those big plays. They don't have Barrett getting the pass rush. So I'm going to trust the Rams a bit more here. Again, pressure's been on Stafford, but the Bucs, they're going to have to rely on the blitz in this game, and from the interior. And I actually trust the Rams interior a little bit more than the outside right now. Not that it's that much of a difference, and I'm just going to trust Stafford. And we'll see if Kupp's playing, but Kupp to make that extra play through the air against a beat-up secondary. And then where the Bucs, it's like I still think the Rams are going to get pressure on Brady. Aaron Donald's going to get pressure on Brady. Aaron Donald's going to help stop the run on the inside. Jalen Ramsey's going to lock. I know they're not always in man coverage, so he's not just focused on Mike Evans, but because they'll run. I mean, they're rarely in man coverage. Actually, they run a ton of zone coverage. See a lot of cover 4 out of them. But Ramsey will lock up his zone, his side. So I'm surprised by the +3 unless Kupp's out. I like the Rams matchup wise in this game, even though they're away. So I'm gonna take the Rams 24-20 in that one. But we'll see. It should be a fun game. Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs are favored by a whopping 12.5, and they definitely. I see the scenario where the Chiefs cover that and they beat up the Titans big, and that scenario is if they get up by 2 scores really fast. Like if it's 10 or 14-0 right away, 10, 14, 17, nothing, whatever, right away, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get real ugly because the Titans rely on that run game. When you get down that much, you're kind of forced to pass. It happened in the Bills game earlier in the year, which the Bills-Chiefs kind of similar. But once you get down big right away, it's a big problem. Therefore, the Chiefs would beat them up pretty good. But at the same time, the Titans play really good defense right now. It's not like the first couple weeks. They were dealing with more injuries then. They're still kind of dealing with injuries now, but they're healthier. They're adjusting. They play really good defense. So I don't think the Chiefs go crazy with the scoring here, but off the bye, Patrick Mahomes, they'll do enough. But the Titans do have a pretty damn stout defense. I think Derrick Henry can do some damage against the Chiefs, but the Titans just don't have – it's Derrick Henry right now. They don't have anything going in the passing game. I know Tannehill was out last week, but still before that, they don't have anything going in the passing game. They need Burks back. They miss A.J. Brown. Woods has been underwhelming. They rely on the run game, and they rely on defense, so why are they winning? Why are they good? Because that run game led by Derrick Henry is very, very good, and that defense is very, very good right now. But maybe the Chiefs at home on Sunday Night Football, a little bit too much, but 12.5 might be too much. Again, there is that scenario if the Chiefs just start off really good and it gets out of hand early, it's going to continue to get even more and more out of hand, even though the Titans, maybe not because their defense can stop them, but yeah, I think Henry kind of keeps them in the game, keeps the clock rolling. Their defense kind of keeps them in the game, and the Chiefs just do enough. So I got them winning by 7. And then Monday Night Football, which not only is this the toughest game to pick this week, this might be one of the toughest games in the last several weeks here to pick. And I know a lot of people going with the Ravens, the favorites, -3. They figured something out in the second half of that Bucs game. It looked really good. It looked like a really good Ravens team. They add Roquan Smith, who should be playing this game, should help them. But I'm feeling the Saints in this one. It's 50-50. It really is for me. But what people don't realize, I know the Saints are, you don't want to base too much off of one game. because they looked really good in that last game, 24-0 against the Raiders. I know the Raiders aren't the Ravens, but you don't want to base things off one game, but they look really good. But we're really not doing that. Kind of go back to other games they lost and other games they played. They've been scoring a lot of points. They've been moving the ball very easily. They just kind of slipped up, had 2 pick sixes against the Cardinals, but they moved the ball very well in that game. They beat the Seahawks, who are a very good football team. They scored a ton on them. They gave the Vikings a battle, and they were really beat up in London in that game. They've been scoring points on teams. The Bengals, they probably should have won that game. They moved the ball well against a pretty good defense. The Bengals defense wasn't that beat up as it is now then. So the Saints score. Camaro's really getting going. It feels like they could have Jarvis Landry back in this game. Olave's been really good. They get creative with using Taysom Hill, obviously. Still waiting on Michael Thomas to return, but it's been an explosive offense. The problem has been defense up until last week. The defense really, really stepped up last week. They need to get more pass rush, though. I want Marshawn Lattimore to be back for me to feel more confident about this pick. I need him to be back, but that defense, it started to play more like the Saints defense last week. And the Ravens defense, you can move the ball in that defense. And the Bucs showed it in the first half, but remember, the Bucs have really been struggling offensively. The Saints have not really been, except for some turnovers. They move the ball. So I think the Ravens defense maybe could struggle a little bit, not big time, but could struggle a little bit in this game because that Saints offense, but it's really on the Saints defense kind of playing like they did last week here. But the Ravens, if a guy like Lattimore plays, and the lack of receivers could show in a game like this. They'll rely on Lamar Jackson running, which I do worry about that with the Saints. They slowed down Murray a couple weeks ago from running, but he was also an issue because they were so focused on having a spy on him that somebody would get wide open. And that could be the same thing here. They could be so worried about spying Lamar Jackson that somebody can get open, but not really the same level of receivers as the Cardinals have at the same time. And it being in New Orleans, if it was in Baltimore, I would have picked Baltimore. Monday night in Baltimore, I would have picked the Ravens here. But in New Orleans, I'm kind of feeling it here for the Saints. So I'm going to go with them 26-24. This should be a really fun game on Monday Night Football. Excited to see Roquan Smith in action for the Ravens as well. Gus Edwards a little beat up. Mark Andrews a little beat up. Minor injuries, they could play, but Andrews dealing with like a shoulder and an ankle, and then you got Edwards with a hamstring, which could be a little tricky. So that's tough as well. I do want to see Lattimore back for the Saints. Jarvis Landry as well. We will see. What they got. But I'm really excited about that game. Can the Saints turn it around? The downside of if you're predicting that every time it feels like they're about to, they don't. They kind of go south again. But they've been putting up fights with some teams here. I think they have a shot to take over that NFC South right now. And kind of recapping the against the spread picks, you can pause the video here. I'm going to recap it real quick. You see my Week 8 record down there in the bottom right. Did pretty well on that one. That week there, it's kind of been easier to predict some of these things as a wild year has gone on. But I got the Eagles -14, which is really tricky because that's a lot of points. But the matchup says it should be similar to the Steelers game, which they covered that as well. Chargers -3, which it is a game that can go either way. But I got the Chargers just covering that. The Dolphins by 5, I got them scoring or winning by a touchdown. I think they could be at least a touchdown. The Panthers +7.5. That's just too much points against a Bengals team that struggles against zone, struggles against pressure, and are beat up on defense and are missing Jamar Chase. The Packers I got covering that 3.5, which that could be close. I could see a scenario the Lions win or the Packers win by 3, but I'm feeling that the Packers kind of getting things going offensively. It's a good matchup for them, so I got them winning by more than that 3.5. Colts by 5.5, and that's going to be a tight, low-scoring game between them and the Patriots. 5.5 just seems like a little too much. The Bills, it's a little scary because the 12.5 is a lot, and the Jets play really good defense. I just don't think the Jets will score enough points to cover that 12.5. But it could be kind of close there. The Vikings by 3.5. It's a little bit tougher of an offense for the Commanders there. They've been dealing with. The Vikings have been playing some pretty good football, so they should be able to cover that. But it could be close. Raiders by 1.5. It's kind of close to a 50-50 game, but I got the Raiders bouncing back and winning by 3 points. Seahawks +2. Another 50-50 game. I'm more comfortable with the Seahawks. And they're getting points, so I felt pretty good with them +2. Rams, I love the matchup for the Rams. Again, let's watch out to see if Cooper Kupp plays or not. It sounds like he could, or should maybe, and they're getting 3 points while I like the matchup, and I just think they're the better team in the Bucs, so I like that one. Titans +12.5. It's how they start. They cannot let it get out of hand early because then the Chiefs will cover, but the Titans have been playing good enough defense. They gave the Chiefs big problems last year, and Henry's been a monster, so 12.5 they should be safe with. And the Saints getting 3 points. points. I like the way they match up at home, prime time. They should get some offense going in that game. They should get some guys back healthy, and they have a good shot to win the game, or a decent shot to win the game. So them getting 3 points, I definitely like them with again, getting the 3 points. So yeah, a lot of teams on a bye this week, so not that many games. So we'll see how we do this week. You see a lot. I like a lot of favorites in the early portion of this, but I like a lot of underdogs in the next portion. So should be a really fun week here. And we're starting to kind of get, halfway through the season, so it starts to heat up. It starts to get more intense, so really excited about that. Check us out on Twitter for my favorite bets for NFL, college football. I do updated playoff predictions. We do quarterback rankings every week, so a lot going on for super followers on Twitter. If you just want to follow normally on Twitter, we got a lot of news, rumors, updates, always interacting with you guys. There's a link for that Twitter and our sponsors pinned in the comments of this video and every video, so check it out. Check out those recent trade deadline picks, power rankings videos. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on while you're at it. Much appreciated. That's going to do it. Goodbye.